Hi, I'm Darren Starwynn, and I love supporting you in claiming your power, the power of love. Today's message is about how would you like to become enlightened in one day without having to do all that messy effort and meditation. Let's take a look at this. You know, enlightenment is all the rage these days. So many people are doing mindfulness, practicing meditation, doing various kinds of spiritual practices and taking courses and workshops. But people realize it's a long, lifelong path to keep working on yourself and practicing. What if you could become enlightened in one day? Well, I want to tell you a story about somebody who wanted to become enlightened in one day, and then follow up with a point that I think you'll find helpful. There was this man who lived in San Francisco, and he really wanted to be enlightened. He heard about all these things going on around him, and he went to some of the classes and some of the teachers, read some of the inspiring books, and he really wanted that higher consciousness. He wanted to feel that love in his heart and to feel that elevation and just feel like he was above it all. But he just didn't really like meditating, and he didn't really like going to groups that much, and he didn't really like having to make a lot of effort. So he started asking around, hey, any way I can get enlightened without doing all that stuff? And most people just said, hey, forget it, buddy. You've got to be on the path. You've got to really make this effort, and you've got to really practice and come join our group. Well, he wouldn't have any of that. Let's call this guy Fred. Fred just wanted the quick way to enlightenment. So he kept asking around and searching online, and one day somebody he met said, yes, I know how you can have what you're asking for. There's this one guru in India who lives in the Himalayan mountains, and when you go to him, he can give you enlightenment in only one day. He's the only one I know that can do that. So this guy said, well, how do I find him? Well, and this man said, well, I just know I have a cousin over in Delhi. If you go and talk to him, he can probably steer you the right way. So this man basically took care of all his affairs, got everything in order, got his plane ticket, got all his shots, flew over to India, to New Delhi, looked up this man who was the cousin of the man he had spoken with, and the guy said, oh yes, I know about this man, I've heard about him. I don't know exactly where he is, but what you need to do is take a bus up to this little town that's up in the Himalayas. It's about a 6-hour bus ride, and up there they can tell you. So the man had to get on this long, difficult bus ride. It wasn't anything like what he was used to. He got all the way up to this little town. He started walking around, asking around. Nobody knew what the heck he was talking about. And then finally he found one old man who was out in the street somewhere with long white robes who said, oh yes, I know about the man who can give you enlightenment in one day. I don't know exactly where he is, but you need to basically take a trek and go for about 6 days up this trail into the mountains. So you probably don't want to hear a really long story. I could stretch this part out as long as I wanted about all the clues in the path and how difficult it was. But to kind of cut to the chase here, after over a month of these blind alleys and going from one town and getting these vague clues and then going to the next place, and then somebody telling him, now you have to go here, now you have to go there. He had a long beard, his hair was getting long, he wasn't that healthy anymore, he was getting really tired of this, but he finally got to one little outpost way high in the Himalayan mountains, and he was sleeping up there, and he was told that this is where he could finally find this teacher, this guru. So nobody was around there, and finally one man came over herding some sheep, and the guy said, yes, you finally found him. You see that mountain over there? There's kind of like a low mountain. On top of that mountain, you'll find this man you're looking for. So Fred was so relieved. He got his energy back together, put on his backpack, filled up his water bottle, and started by himself. And it was a very, very difficult climb. I mean, it was a very jagged, very scary cliffs. He had to climb for a long, long time, almost slipped off a few times. But finally, he got up to this flat area on the top of the mountain. He was really, really tired, and he looked, and there was 2 dwellings there. There was a small kind of, basically a simple hut, and there was a man sitting in front of it, cross-legged in meditation. And then maybe about 50 feet away from there was this long, low building. It was about as wide as maybe a driveway in a house. It was maybe about 50 feet long, pretty small and low. And so Fred went up to this man in front who was meditating, and he sat in front of him and just waited. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited. And just when the sun was starting to set, the man finally opened his eyes and looked at Fred and said, "I have been waiting for you." And Fred said, "Really? How did you know I was coming?" The man said, "I know a lot of things. I always know when they're coming." So Fred said, "Well, thank you," introduced himself. The man said, "First let me pour you some tea." So the guru went in, brought 2 cups out, poured some tea in there. Fred had to wait and do the tea ceremony. He had to go through some civilities. And then finally, the guru said, "I know why you've come. You've come because you want enlightenment in one day, right?" And Fred said, yes, that's why I've come." So the guru said, "You're in the right place. You've come to the place where you can get enlightened in one day." And Fred was so happy after all that effort he had made. He said, "Well, how do I do it?" So the guru said, "Come with me, I'll show you." So they walked a little ways and came to that other building. And the guru pointed and said, "You see, there's a door at this end of the building. And there's another door at the other end of the building. All you have to do to become enlightened is walk in this door, walk through the building, and walk out the door on the other end, and you will be fully enlightened." Fred was just ecstatic, like, "Wow, that sounds so easy. Can I do it now?" And the teacher said, "Yes, you can do it now if you wish." And so Fred was just getting ready to do it, and the teacher said, "There's one caveat I need to tell you about this building." And Fred said, "Oh, what's that?" "There's 10,000 demons inside the building. They'll try to do everything they can to try to stop you from walking all the way through the building." Fred said, "Oh, will they try to kill me?" The teacher said, "Well, they can't actually really hurt you. They can sure try to scare you and distract you, though. But ultimately, they really have no power over you." So Fred was starting to feel a little bit better about that. And he said, "Really? So got any advice?" The teacher said, "Yes. Just don't look to the right, don't look to the left. Just ignore them and just walk right through and walk out the other end. They can't really do anything to you if you just ignore them." So Fred was feeling a little bit more hopeful, and he said, "Well, okay, I guess I'll try it." And he was just about to walk in the front door, and suddenly he turned around back to the teacher and said, "Can I ask you one more question?" The teacher said, "Yes, what's your last question?" "How many people have come here and successfully walked through this building?" The teacher said, "None." And that's the end of the story. So, what's the point of this story? Well, one point is that we really do have enlightenment available to us right now, with the ascension energies that are right now amplifying on our planet. This ascending of consciousness that is really getting stronger and stronger every year. There's tools and there's energies available to us that were much harder to access in the past, even a few years ago. And so when we learn to tap into this wave of ascension, we can actually experience the truth within us and the love and the light within us much more easily than people in the past could, where maybe it had to be such a rigorous path of enlightenment. So we can really do this. It's really about who you are, not so much trying to achieve something new that you're not. When you just know who you are and you can plug into the experience of who you are in your own body, then you truly are experiencing some aspect of enlightenment. But those demon voices are very insistent. So where do these voices come from? What really are they? I'm using the word demons, but what does that really mean? Well, have you ever read the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz? That's such a fabulous book, and so many people have been so blessed by reading that book. In fact, when I went to some bookstores in Santa Cruz, they couldn't even keep it on the shelf. I went to 3 different bookstores. I said, "No, it keeps selling out. Every time we put that book out, they just disappear." Because there's such a great truth in that book, The Four Agreements. And one of the quotes that Don Miguel says in that book is that we have a fog in our minds that he calls mitote, which is a Toltec word. And he said, in that fog that we have in our consciousness, It's like there's 1,000 different voices speaking to us all at the same time. And because of that, it's very hard to know what we really are. And that's so true. We've all heard of people that have schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. And those are people that are considered crazy because all these voices are talking in their head. But all of us are the same way. We're just at a much lower level of crazy. So we're not considered diagnosed with those labels because we're more integrated. But we still have that same basic experience, just on a more manageable level. So where do the voices come from? Well, in my new book, Reclaiming Your Calm Center, in chapter 5, I describe some of the places all those voices come from. I'll just give you the very short version now. Some of it comes from our family of origin, voices that we've taken on that aren't really us. Some come from our ancestors, even ones we've never even met. Some of those voices come from groups of souls that we're connected with through shared pain bodies that Eckhart Tolle talked about in his books. Some of those voices come from other dimensions, places that we don't even intellectually understand, but still we're picking up on some of these thought forms and ideas. Some of it comes from other existences that we've lived that we don't even remember. There's a lot of places where these voices come from, and yet they affect us. It's really kind of a form of inner PTSD, something that I call discombobulation. And it's pretty much the condition of the human race, especially in America, where there's such a high emphasis on the mind, and we're not as in touch with our bodies and our feelings as in some other cultures. So what can we do about this? How can we surmount that and enjoy more of the beauty and the love and the enlightenment that's already inside of us? When you learn to become in harmony with these ascension energies, I call it surfing the wave of ascension. Ascension's like a huge wave coming in on the ocean. And if you're a good surfer and you're surfing on top of that wave, it's an amazing ride. There's nothing better. If you're not a good surfer, sometimes the wave is crashing on top of you. So when you learn how to connect within yourself, to be with these ascension energies, to become in harmony with them, then it can take you very high very quickly. It can take you into your calm center much more easily than maybe you could have done in the past. And you can definitely do this. All of us can actually do this. Yet those demons can be very insistent. So in the next video, I'm going to share some things that I find really work well for me to be in my calm center, no matter what is going on, no matter what voices are trying to speak. That really works beautifully. Thank you so much for your interest and your kind attention. See you next time.